tweaking, I'm geeking, I'm tweaking, I'm geeking, I can't save no.
Oh hey, it's another Friday, which means it's another review from me. Oh, just ignore what's going on in the background. It's just a visual representation of what Kanye is doing right now on social media and to himself. But hey, at least we know CP3 has another assist, and it's not on the court this time. But for today's review, we got another album from the legendary trap producer himself, Metro Boomin. This time tapping in with Travis Scott, 21 Savage, and a few others for Heroes and Villains, being a 15-track run of some hard-hitting 808s and solid verses. Alright, so after going through this album, what I can say is that while it isn't bad, I do feel like it could have been a bit better, perhaps. I mean, sure, it can be a fun listen and the direction is there, but at the same time, I feel like it's not really pushing any boundaries or making any album of the year claims for me, due to its reliance on the generic mainstream trap sound of some of these beats, alongside a not very surprising feature list to help. I mean, about 90% of this album is Travis Scott, 21 Savage, and Future, which aren't bad combos for Metro beats, but at the same time, I feel like I'm not getting much wow factor from anyone aside from maybe Future, and that's mainly just because I like his choruses. But I don't know, I feel like the appeal I had with Travis Scott has been long gone for a while now, and I also feel like 21 Savage just isn't really doing too much, especially when you got guys like Young Thug that, in my opinion, outdid everyone else and only showed up for 2 tracks. But at least with 21, we know that his fellas are clutching the glizzies, so there's that. But for what it's worth, I do have to acknowledge the track length on this project, keeping things down to 15 songs to 48 minutes total, which I feel is the optimal length for a good project with no cheap filler, unlike some other certain trap artists. And I also gotta acknowledge the little bits of narration we got from A$AP Rocky and Morgan Freeman, although it was barely there throughout the project, only appearing in the intro and interludes, but still helping with the theme and the overall flow of the album. But as for the production, as stated before, for the majority it was pretty generic cookie cutter trap sound, relying on heavy 808s, pianos, and little hats sprinkled about to give it a bit more of that wider appeal and high energy. But what I will say though is that the transitions on this album were amazing, with almost every song flowing perfectly into each other, and while some of them did feel repetitive in sound, there were a few tracks that caught my attention, with one of them being I Can't Save You interlude with Future and Don Toliver, with it honestly being my favorite from the entire album, transitioning perfectly from the previous track Metro Spider with Young Thug, yet still hitting just as hard with everyone firing on all cylinders, from the flow to the bars to the beat, relying on heavy bass, a little bit of bell in the background, and synths to give a more dramatic feel, just to close it out with Rocky giving some narration that I feel made this track the peak of the entire album. But as for the other beat, it's going to be off the song Creepin' with 21 Savage and The Weeknd, which I honestly thought was one of the weaker songs from this entire project, relying on the flow of the old Mario song I Don't Wanna Know for the chorus and the beat. This whole track just seems very lackluster and kind of like a sore thumb in comparison to the other more wild and fast-paced and hard-hitting beats Metro gave us, and an honest waste of a Weeknd feature. Aside from that, we did get some slower moments for the piano to shine with the track Superhero, and some of that classic wavy and melodic synth sound for Don Toliver to hop on, because that's all he's truly capable of capitalizing on. And then we have the features, which I kind of already explained, but I'll try to get into more. See, as stated before, 90% of this album consisted of Travis Scott, 21 Savage, and Future, but there was also Don Toliver, A$AP Rocky, Young Thug, Offset, Mustafa, John Legend, The Weeknd, Chris Brown, and Gunna on the bonus track. And I'll say it again that this wasn't really the most surprising feature list, honestly not shocking me at all on who we decided to choose, because who else to get for one of the most mainstream trap producers of today's generation other than some of the most mainstream trap artists of today's generation? I mean, how does the saying go? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But regardless, only one of these guys actually caught my attention, and that's Young Thug on Metro Spider and Trance. But aside from that, everyone else was just alright, I guess. I mean, sure, everyone did their job, but at the same time, what more do you expect from these dudes? Unless we're talking about The Weeknd, then Metro should have just left that track off the album completely. But overall, this album was cool for the energy and vibes it gave, but that's all it really had in terms of a musical aspect. I mean, the only thing this project proved to me was that Metro is still a damn good producer, and Young Thug still got it in him, which are things I already knew. But in comparison to Not All Heroes Wears Capes, I think it's the lack of variety that makes this album sit lower on the Metro discography totem pole for me. So to put this on a scale, I'm giving this a high 6 out of 10. Not really being album of the year for me, but still fun if you have very loud speakers in your car. But how do you guys feel about Metro's latest album? What would you rate it? Let me know down in the comments by liking and subscribing, follow my IG and Twitter, and follow Chocolate on Instagram for more illustrations. And on that note, I'll see you on Monday when I give counseling to Kanye's PR team. Peace.